happy Sunday. What's going on, good people? Back at you with another episode. And if you missed the first press conference, I hope you didn't miss the second one between Saul Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Bud Crawford. Man, yo, we had some fireworks today, man. This is the second stop on the international tour as we lead up to this fight in September. The first one was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on Friday, and then this past press conference was in NYC just a few hours ago. And listen, we have a lot to talk about. So before I get into it, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff, man, because I have a lot of good thoughts on this thing, and we got some good content to put out. So without further ado, kicking off this press conference, you had Michael Buffer, the man, the myth, the legend, opens up the press conference, introduces the fighters, Terrence Crawford, Canelo Alvarez, introduces Turki Al-Sheikh, who comes out and shares his thoughts and his vision on how he wants the fight to go, all the fights that they had leading up to that he got to promote, and this big event that they're really looking forward to. And then he brings out Dana White, and the crowd goes nuts. Everybody gets ready to start asking him questions. So Dana takes the stage, introduces himself, starts asking for questions from the crowd, and man, a lot of really good questions. But some of the things that stuck out to me, off rip, they asked Terrence Crawford, what's your plan for this fight? And he pretty much said, listen, I'm gonna keep it straight, I'm gonna keep it G with you. I'm hunting him and everything he got. All them belts coming home with me. Like, he cut straight to the chase, and I love that. None of this beating around the bush and all this other stuff. No, he was like, look, forget all the pleasantries. He said, I'm hunting Canelo, and I need all that. Run it. And Canelo's sitting back, cool, calm, collected. It's nice to see a little bit of the mask come down from both of these guys. And he said, it's when I win, not if I win, when I win. So exuding confidence, just oozing confidence from his pores. And so is Canelo. Canelo is looking at this as business as usual, but he's also not taking Terrence Crawford lightly. And I love that from Canelo's side. And he said, I hope he brings a good style of fighting for the people. And at this point in the press conference, Dana White actually ceded the microphone to Max Kellerman. He introduced Max Kellerman as the first member of the broadcast team for this fight in September, and I love that. I've been calling for Max Kellerman to be covering some of these fights. It's like, yo, he is the guy. When you think of boxing and commentators, you think of Jim Lampley, and you think of Max Kellerman as Larry Merchant from back in the day. God rest his soul, he's no longer with us, but Larry Merchant, Jim Lampley, and Max Kellerman is the next guard of commentators who's going to be legendary. And Max Kellerman is going to be on that broadcast team, and I'm telling you, it's going to be bonkers, man, because he knows boxing, and he just got like that style to his delivery, the way he talks, and he knows his stuff, man. So it's going to be great. And Canelo, Canelo said, they asked Canelo, what do you think this fight's going to be like? How do you think Crawford's going to fight in September? And he said, I hope he brings a good style of fighting for the people. And then he tried to say it in a roundabout way. He's being respectful. He was like, and then Max Kellerman said, let me translate for you. He's saying, Crawford, that he hopes you don't run. And then I think that opened the door for Canelo to bring the masks down himself and see what he really was trying to say. And he said, hey, Turkey, you need to put a small ring. You need to put a smaller ring, saying you're going to run. And then Crawford responded by saying, the only running I'm going to be doing is running upside his head. And he got a big head too. And Canelo sat back and smiled. It was intense but respectful banter. It was intense but respectful banter from both sides. And at that point, I was looking at it and I saw the title. It said heated conference, and I was like, all right, they got a little Chippy and had a little bit of words here and there. It was a little spicy, but not really. And then they ended it off, and Max Kellerman said, hey, Dana White, we want to get you guys all together for the face-off. So Dana White brings Canelo and Crawford to the center of the stage for the face-off, and it cut off. I was like, interesting. Saw another notification. I looked for Fight Hub TV, and they showed the full clip, and the thumbnail showed what seemed to be a shoving match. And I was like, oh, okay, let me check it out. So I look at this, and this is what I saw, and I hope you guys go check this out. Dana White, he ushers the face-off, and both men, they step. And when I say they step quickly to each other. I almost had to rewind it because they met face-to-face so damn quick. They closed that gap like that. And they did that quickly and confidently, and they had this stare down, eye to eye. And it was this intense, yet cool, calm, and collected stare down, almost like the first press conference. But this was different. About 2 seconds into that stare down, Bud starts like drifting forward, like he's walking forward, like he's trying to press Canelo's personal space, like press him backwards. And Canelo's kind of slowly moving backwards, and then at a certain point he's like, man, and mildly pushes him. Nothing crazy, but just like, man, back up. And then Bud, you know how Bud is. He turns up. That's all he needed. He looking to instigate a little bit of emotion. He got what he was looking for after pushing him, and he pushed the security guard back. And he's like, no, come back. He's tried to go through the security detail to try to get back in front of Canelo's face. It was it was quite the event. And he's sitting there smiling. He's smiling like he's looking for all the smoke. And Canelo, he didn't look like he was shaking or nothing like that, but he definitely was not amused. You'll see his face. Look at the press conference, not amused at all. And eventually Bud's like, I'm cool. Everybody calms down, and then they redo the face-off. And they're standing there, they're facing off a little bit further apart. Dana White holding them apart. And then Bud's sitting there smiling ear to ear, like, just looking at him. Like one of those badass kids and when you're in 5th or 6th grade and they are naturally looking for chaos. An agent of anarchy, if you will. Like, he had that type of vibe. And Canelo was just looking at him like, all right, just staring at him. Like, it was no more jokes or smiling with him at that point. He was like, oh, okay, you want to be on that time? All right, I got you, bet. And Crawford doesn't say a whole bunch, but he starts chirping a little bit, like, yeah, you ready? Like saying something like that, like, you ready? While smiling at him, like, it seems like he want all the smoke, like he's not intimidated by Canelo's size at all. And I'm actually going to look at a video after this, but the clip reads why Crawford's not concerned with Canelo and how much he weighs and all that stuff. Going to check it out, but overall I think it was a very, very good second press conference. I think they got a little bit, not bad blood, but they got the pleasantries out the way. And now we're not even into July yet, and you already see them talking about, yeah, it's going to get more intense as we get closer to the fight. And it got medium mild intense today. All right, like the first of many escalations in my estimation, rhyming and stuff, before as we lead up to the fight. And man, I got a lot of thoughts on how I think it's going to play out. I'm going to do my film study and my research. I think it's very easy to try to make predictions beforehand. I already have my way I'm swinging right now from what I've seen, but I think we need to see what their training camp looks like. We need to see then who they're sparring in training camp. You get some leaks and some news about who they're sparring, how they're doing in sparring, things like that. And then we got to see what they look like during the week, the press conference on fight week, when you see what is their build like, who looks in shape, are they both in shape, is their confidence level the same, and whatnot. Like, these are the things that you start to see closer to the fight. And then in my opinion, after doing all the film study and then adding on the new information as we go through training camp and lead into fight week, that's when I really start solidifying my opinion. Right now, I think right now I favor Crawford. My thing is, I do not like the long layoff that he had. His last fight was against Majumov, and I thought he fought well. I thought Majumov was a very tough and tricky and mobile opponent, and I thought it was a really good win, especially moving up to 154. And your first fight is against a guy like him. Like people don't realize how good Majumov is, man. He's a highly accomplished Olympic boxer, and he has a high IQ, and he has long arms, and he has excellent foot movement. You talk about feints and changing the distance and lateral movement. I mean, he up there with the best of them, man. And people try and treat him like he's like a Lomachenko or a knockoff of a better fighter. No, he's a high level fighter, man. So but what I don't like is that I would have liked to see Terrence Crawford take a tune-up fight at 168. It don't have to be against a high-level opponent, but it has to be the same way as Alexander Usyk played his cards when he went up to heavyweight. Alexander Usyk was a cruiserweight, and he came up from cruiserweight to heavyweight. He had his eyes on the belts, but in the meantime, he faced competition to help him gauge how he would be at that weight, and one of his best wins was over Derek Chisora. Yes, Derek Chisora was older and did not necessarily have a lot of fights left in the tank at that point, as evidenced by, what he did afterwards and whatnot. But what he does bring is power. The speed may not be there, but the power for damn sure is. And he was able to take Derek Chisora's power, and he caught at the very least 1 to 2 very, very good, clean, hard shots, and seemed to take that pretty well. So that gave me confidence that Alexander Usyk was going to be able to not just move up to heavyweight, but possibly be able to dominate at heavyweight like he did at cruiserweight, because he was able to take a punch from the hardest hitting heavyweight probably at that point. Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua were better, but Derek Chisora, despite lacking the skills, hit the hardest at the weight. And if he could take that, and he's more skilled and faster technically than other guys, then it's no wonder he was going to run through it. And I called that. I thought that Usyk was going to win the first and the second fight, and I was right, because his feet are too fast. Now, with Canelo and Crawford, what's going on, Keith? What's going on, Ryan? Thanks for tuning in, y'all. We're talking about Crawford and Canelo, and my early thoughts on the fight. I just went over the press conference. Go check out the second one that happened today. It was actually highly entertaining, which is the point of this video today. But the way I see this fight, I just think that, I know, Terrence Crawford has much faster feet than Canelo Alvarez. But the caveat is he's not a small guy like people think he is. Jermell Charlo, the one at 154, he's a very, very skilled boxer, but he's a smaller guy. His frame is small. He was not going to go up to 168 and be able to deal with the power. I don't remember what I said for the fight. I just thought that he would outbox Canelo, but I'm like, if you get caught, it's a problem. With Crawford, this dude is fighting at 135, started there, then 140, then 147, beating Spence. He's been draining down to meet those weights heavily, man. If you even saw him in the Spence fight, he looked like Skeletor in his face. It's just that Errol Spence, I think, suffered more trying to make that weight than Terrence Crawford did. But Terrence Crawford, neither one of them was going to have another fight at 147, and they both said that. But I didn't need them to say that. You could see it. They're big dudes. So Errol Spence probably walk around at like 165, 170. He don't walk around at 147. He walk around like 20 pounds heavier sometimes. So Terrence Crawford, he be walking around like, he said he walk around like 175, 180. And then when you see him in the training clips, he don't look like Juan Manuel Marquez when he came up 2 divisions to fight Floyd Mayweather. Marquez looked like he was top heavy, he was bloated, he couldn't carry the weight well, and he was slow as shit. And Floyd could have been on his B game and beat him that night because he couldn't move. Same thing with Amir Khan. Amir Khan faster than Canelo, but got a glass chin, no defense, bad reflexes, and he can't carry the extra weight. You saw Amir Khan go up in weight to fight Canelo Alvarez at the 152 catch weight, I believe. He was top heavy and he just looked bloated. That's not muscle. That's not good weight. That's just weight you packed on that you're not going to be able to carry at that weight class, especially fighting somebody as good as Canelo. And he subsequently got knocked out. Terrence Crawford's none of those things. Terrence Crawford also beat Amir Khan, I believe. And Terrence Crawford, he hit hard. He got a mean streak. He's a high-level wrestler. If you don't know, outside of boxing, he's a high-level wrestler. I think he wrestled in high school. And there's many clips floating around of him wrestling various people. And you can see he's built strong from the ground up. You're not going to move him. And then you look at him deadlifting like 500 pounds when he's, at his size is insane. And then he has a longer reach. And then he's very fast. He's got better feet. The boxing IQ is high for both of them, but I think it's slightly higher for Terrence Crawford. And I think the issue is it's not about Canelo's power. It's not about the feints. It's not about his defense. It's the fact that you have a counterpuncher in front of you with a long reach, with a very, very good pedigree, who's probably going to come in as heavy as you on that night with functional power. I don't know about the punching power, but certainly the wrestling power. You're not going to get on the inside and move him. Probably don't be surprised if he moves Canelo on the inside if they get into a clinch. He's very, very strong. That being said, Canelo's X factor is always that power. You know what I'm saying? My thing is just the knee brace on his front leg. If you look at his left leg the past, 5-10 fights, he's wearing a knee brace because if he hasn't had surgery, he's certainly had issues with that knee for quite some years now. And on top of him already having slower feet, even going back to when he was like 23 fighting Floyd Mayweather, he's never really had good feet. If you're not standing in front of him, straight up and down, no special effects, and you're moving side to side, and you have a good jab, it's problems. For all you that don't believe me, go back and look at another good fighter that kind of fits this mold, Arislandi Lara. Arislandi Lara, 75-inch reach. He almost has the same wingspan as I do, at the same height, which is a freakish wingspan to have at 5'9". You got like a 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" wingspan when you're 5'9". That's insane. You're going to kill people at your division. And that's why Lara gave Canelo fits when they fought. Canelo probably should have taken the fight, and you got to give Canelo credit because he took the challenge and went after a guy like Lara that everybody was avoiding at that time at 154. And I think it came out as a draw for that fight. Some people say Canelo got it. Some people say Lara got it. I could see it either way. But it was the movement and the jab and the long reach. He did everything William Skull did, except he was throwing more punches back. And I think the issue that Canelo may have, not saying he will, but this is my gut feeling, the only issue is whether Terrence Crawford can take the punch at 168. That is a valid and legitimate concern. You can't ignore that because he's never fought at this weight. Sparring is something completely different. But beyond that fact, I think the difference between Crawford and Charlo is I think he can hurt Canelo. Crawford has power, he has pop, and he has placement. He throws punches from odd angles like I can with these long pterodactyl arms that you don't see coming. They're not like the conventional rear hook or rear cross from another fighter. He can throw it from these odd freaking angles, kind of like Triple G did, which is why Triple G catches a lot of people off guard because he throws some odd angles. And I think that is going to be the tail of the tape for me. That's going to be one of the keys to victory. It's going to determine who's going to win. If Canelo can land and make Crawford respect him, I see Canelo winning by decision. If he cannot make Crawford like spooked out from his power, I don't mean like kind of hesitant, spooked out, it's going to be issues, man, because he might have the best jab in the business. Him, Lomachenko, in a way, like his jab up there with those guys. And he has crazy fast feet, and he has a longer reach, and he's more than happy to use that reach and knows how to. It's going to be issues, bro. So I'll be able to make a more informed decision come training camp, because seeing these things may sway my opinion one way or another. I'll get more of a gauge on whether this layoff's really going to cripple Terrence or not, because he always stay in shape. But like I said, you're still not in the ring with some of these guys that Canelo's fighting. Even if you fought a guy like William Skull, I think that would have been a better decision. You don't have to worry about, the power so much, and you get a chance to get in the ring with a guy that's going to bring some semblance of what you may deal with at 168. At least, in terms of how big he is, and to see if your punches can affect him. Even if his punches ain't going to knock you out per se, can your punches affect a 168-pounder? That's what you need to know. So we will see. That's my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think of the press conference, and I'm going to read some of these comments. Once again, appreciate you showing up, Keith. Ryan says, how many rounds you think Canelo and Crawford will go? Because I think it may go 12 and somebody wins by decision. Right now, my hunch is that Terrence Crawford wins this fight by decision. Could be 7-5, could be 8-4, but I think for me, the jab and the footwork are going to be the difference, and his ability to absorb punishment in a better fashion than Jermell Charlo was able to do in their fight. That's just my first read on it. But I think it goes to full 12. I don't foresee Canelo getting frustrated to the point where he starts taking a necessary risk if that happens. But I certainly do think he's going to have some issues closing what Demetrius Johnson would term the void in between the two fighters. In that space, when you guys are squared up, he has to. It doesn't matter what fighter you're a fan of. You have to look at this objectively. There is a void in between two fighters, and each fighter has to make the decision on how they're going to cross that void into mid and or close range to get to their opponent to land a punch. And the person with the longer range is going to have an advantage off rip, because the shorter arm fighter has to cross that void in order to even have a shot at hitting the fighter with the longer arms. And then if you combine that with the fact that the fighter with the longer arms has better feet, now is another problem. What can negate that is power and knowing how to cut off the ring effectively, which I think Canelo can do. Like, people look at the Skull fight and say, oh, see, he couldn't cut off the ring. William Skull was looking like Usain Bolt out there. So I don't think it's fair to criticize Canelo for that being a bad fight. Like, what the F was he supposed to do in that situation? That being said, you got a guy with longer reach, better jab. Canelo barely even uses a jab. Better feet. And he's not, just in my opinion, and this is the X factor, he's not going to be as small and as frail as people anticipate. Because without that, then it's not really a close fight if you're looking at it objectively. And this was the same feeling I had going into the Usyk and Fury fight. People were like, Usyk has a 78-inch reach, 79-inch reach, and Fury has an 85-inch reach. And he's 6'9" versus Usyk being 6'3". How's he ever going to win? And I'm like, his feet are too fast. It don't fucking matter. Excuse my language. He's not going to be able to catch him. And then when he gets inside the range, good luck. Canelo is craftier than Fury. So it's not an exact comparison, but he's going to have some of the same issues because of the slow feet. So that's what I think in terms of how the fight's going to go. And like I said, I'll adjust my opinion as we get closer to the fight. But that's my thoughts. Feel free to leave your comments and your opinions in the comments below. You know, if you agree, if you disagree, I want to hear it all. And I'll catch you guys on the next one, all right? Enjoy your weekend and have a safe Sunday. All right, be blessed. Peace.